Welcome back to another episode of Roll Pod, the second episode of Roll Pod in 24 hours, as Mike and Alex and I reacted to starting running back Jam Miller dealing with an upper body injury and is out for the Florida State game and probably for a few games after that. This is Monday morning. We'll record this on a Monday morning. I'll get this out soon after as well, kind of just getting closer to kickoff. We're 12 days until kickoff. Alabama's down has got completed 15 fall practices, wrapped up their second scrimmage. Ty Simpson's the starter. We've got a media open availability for Mike and Alex, about 10 minutes worth coming up on Tuesday. Some Kalen DeBoer talking. I believe Ryan Grubb's going to speak. So a busy week, and then it's going to get into pretty much game week prep for the program and for us on Bama 247 as well. But this week we're going to this episode of Roll Pod, we're going to do kind of another draft, and we're going to do the schedule. We're going to let Mike and Alex go at it kind of 1v1 over the schedule. We're going to take it from toughest games in their mind to easiest matchups over the course of the schedule. Mike, Alex, how we doing?
Good.
Weekend got blurred by a little bit of news and
Yes.
a scrimmage, but
It's that time of year. We have one more weekend left without football. I know everybody's excited for football, but sometimes in our profession, it's nice to have Saturdays and Sundays off. So we have one more weekend of that, and then we get to jump into kind of the grind of the season after that.
So if something ridiculous happens next weekend, we can blame Mike for saying it's
For
going to be
jinxing
your
us?
life.
Our wives will be happy that we're around next weekend.
Like I said, obviously this is our second Roll Pod in as many days. You guys had 24 hours to sleep on it, think on it, however you want to put it. Just real quick, 30 seconds. Mike, where are you at kind of from the Jam injury perspective in that running back room? I know you've put out a bunch of your thoughts on the room on our site, but kind of the 24-hour rule, where are you at?
Right. I mean, it is what it is. Like it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world for Jam. It's not the end of the world for Alabama. It's an injury that, in all likelihood, is probably going to keep him out a few games. So we'll have to see the exact timeline. I think it's still a little bit uncertain when exactly he will return, but it's not a season-ending injury. So there's that. But it's not, it's not the easiest start to a schedule either. Like Alabama has a tougher first three games than they've had in a while, to be honest, because they played two Power 4 opponents, Wisconsin and Florida State, one of those being on the road. You don't really have that buffer that you typically have at the beginning of the year. So there's that. But, there's the Jam Miller part of it that, again, good player, but not – I don't know if I'd call him a difference maker in terms of win versus loss. I think if they lose the Florida State game, I don't know if we're going to be pointing to Jam Miller as the reason why. So, nice to have. I think it would be good to have him for these first couple games, assuming he's out for a few games. But it's not the end of the world, and it's it's a situation where you can get him back, and I think he could still overall have a pretty good season.
Yeah, it's interesting that on Twitter the reaction is one thing, and it's oh my God, Jam Miller, Alabama starting running back's gone. And then like on message boards like our own, it's like, oh, that sucks, but he's not lighting the world on fire. So I think there's an underreaction on one side, and I think there's an overreaction on the other, and the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, that no, he's not a guy who we expected to go out and run for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Maybe he was going to turn the corner this season, and that would have been the case. But based on what we've seen, that's not the expectation. The concern more for me, and I said on the last podcast, is not the carries. It's everything else in between. It's pass protection, alignment, catching the football out of the backfield, all of those little things that we don't really focus on with running backs. He does at a very high level, and the trust factor with the coaching staff going on the road. That's why it's not a big blinking red light, like this is the worst thing in the world. But it's there in the background that it could cause a little bit of disruption, especially early in that game as you try to get those young guys. If it's not a Dre Washington, even with him, settled into a different kind of environment than they're used to.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point, and I can't lie, I used it and I cited you over the since you said it yesterday morning, but about how Ty kind of trusts him, and he, that was something he did not have to worry about as far as run fits and everything like that. So it's definitely something that could affect quarterback play as well. But flipping the page, we'll get into this draft because Alex was kind of sandwiched in the middle of the player draft. We'll give him the first.
I had an idea, though. I have a package of mints, and I was going to say heads on one side, tails on the other, and I can throw it up. How about, Alex, you get to call the toss?
Okay. All right. Heads.
Heads or tails?
Yeah, I'll go heads. Heads.
Oh, it's too bad, Alex. It's
like we believe you, but go ahead. You can have the first pick.
You want to defer?
Yeah, he got the what is the NBA thing with the raffle with the frozen ball in there? That's what Mike's doing right now. So you can have the first pick.
It spun like 2 times.
Yeah. So again, just to be clear, this is Mike and Alex. We're going through the schedule, but having a little, added a little angle, a little bit fun to it with the draft. Kind of let them go head to head. We'll make, and you guys can clear it up, but from toughest matchup to easiest matchup in your guys' mind is what we're doing here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, toughest to easiest. I think it's the way we got to go, the direction we got to go.
All right. Never guess what the last pick is going to be.
It actually, there's some intrigue, I will say, because we'll get to it. But both of those teams at the end are not good. So let's put that. Anyway, I'll start and I'll say Georgia, because I think if you do not view Georgia as the toughest game on Alabama's schedule, I think you are mistaken. I think if you sleep on Georgia, that is going to be problematic. Now, I think there's a mentality among Alabama fans, and it's certainly justified based on recent history, that Georgia is beatable, and they've beaten Georgia a lot, with the exception of the national championship game. And it's even in the betting markets, like Alabama has been an underdog against Georgia, I want to say 4 times in the last 5 years, or last 5 meetings. And I believe they're an underdog in this game. I'd be surprised if they weren't. Unless Georgia loses to Tennessee before that game, it's going to be an underdog situation for Alabama again. But this one, you're going to Athens, and look, Georgia doesn't play a lot of big teams in Athens. I think Tennessee is typically one they do. You can say like this is the best team that's come in there in a while. It's probably true. But look, Georgia's Georgia, and that's going to be a tough situation. And Kirby Smart has a lot of angles he can play with his team to motivate them, given the past losses, given what happened last season. Nobody believes in us anymore. Like, it's a different playbook for Kirby than it was 2 years ago or even last year, because everybody thought Georgia was on top. Now people don't think Georgia's on top quite as much. So that's a tough game. And again, it's whatever applies to Ty Simpson going into Florida State. Yes, he will have that game under the belt in terms of, playing on the road, but Georgia's going to be tough too. That's only game 2 for him on the road. So I don't think there's another option for number 1. I don't know if it's true or not, but
I think Alex getting ready to do something, but I do want to say whoever doesn't make the pick, the other guy, I'll give, quick second just to give a thought, obviously, on that matchup as well.
It would have been my first pick too. Because look, you can say they lost their quarterback. You can say they've lost X number of players to the draft. You can say their offense has been underwhelming last year. It's Georgia. I mean, they're the closest thing to Saban-era Nick Saban at Alabama that there is. They've recruited a really high level. They coach really hard. They have a really good coaching staff, and they get the benefit of the doubt in a lot of ways. And Gunnar Stockton may not be a perfect quarterback, but in some ways, maybe he's perfect for what they want to do and maybe be more of a defensive-oriented team. They have made upgrades at receiver. And you know what? Alabama's not going to benefit from 2 things this time. 1, location. That's obvious. Mm-hmm. Other thing they're not going to benefit from is the surprise factor. Mm-hmm. Kirby Smart didn't really know what he was getting going into Tuscaloosa last year. Hadn't really, if he studied Washington's offense, they weren't really running a lot of that with
Yeah.
Jalen Milroe. So, and Ryan Williams wasn't a thing quite yet, and they learned that the hard way. So I think there's a lot of adapting that they can do in terms of to Alabama specifically, and then where the game is. That's why I do think when I put out my game predictions, I think that is a loss. And I do think, as I noted in the story, even if Jam Miller was healthy, I think the absence of a strong traditional running game against a defense like Georgia is how you lose a game. You have to be balanced. So with him potentially either out or not 100%, even further pushes in that scenario. Because if you're just trying to throw the football against Kirby Smart, he's going to find a way to have success. So I think it's a really tough game. Not say it's not winnable, but I think it's by far the most difficult game on the schedule.
Yeah, it's a good point about the surprise factor. And it's not just Kirby. I think it's a lot of coaches in the SEC that didn't have a chance to play Kalen. But Kirby did know who Ryan Williams was, to be fair, just from the high school ranks. Just had to get that in there.
Yeah, he knew maybe his secondary wasn't quite aware. They were not familiar with his game.
Right.
So, yeah.
First pick was Mike taking Georgia. Alex, you are up.
Look, I don't feel great about this pick, but I feel like I need to stick with what I've put on paper, which is my game by game predictions. I'm going to say Oklahoma.
Yep, I knew you were saying that.
Because, what we saw last year, and I'm going to say exactly what I wrote in the story. You can say that Brent Venables is not a good head coach. You cannot say he's not a good defensive coordinator. And go look at the guys they have up front on their defensive line. They're very good. What they did to Jalen Milroe was as much about them as it was about Jalen Milroe's deficiencies. And they had nothing to do with Alabama's receivers having drops in that game too. So you put that into it. And then I think it's more so like the stretch of games too. You're coming out of South Carolina, LSU, Tennessee. Like there's going to be a loss in there. And I just think the Oklahoma, where it falls, Alabama might be lulled into a false sense of confidence. And then John Mateer is a baller, man. Like he can throw the football. And you should not sleep on him just because he was at Washington State and you think that's Alaska or you think it's Russia for people figuring out that those two are close these days. Like he can sling it. They've got some talent at receiver. Their O-line worries me just a little bit, but that's a really good team. And I think on top of all of that, Jay Knott is a good running back. And I think Alabama's rush defense, as we saw last season, was not very good. So I think Oklahoma's got the chance to score some points, and I think pull off would be an upset, even if it could be a point spread wise, a mild upset at that point in the season.
I wrote Alabama O-line versus Oklahoma D-line, so that was kind of like it's nasty up front for them. Go ahead, Mike, if you had a thought on the Sooners.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd pick them number 2 just because I feel like they still have a ways to go to be a team on Alabama's level. Like, I don't think they were on Alabama's level last year as an entire team. Like, for them,
24-3.
I know. But over the course of the season, that wasn't a great Oklahoma team. And
when a good Alabama
passing offense was awful by the time they played Alabama. They somehow got through that game, just like Michigan. I mean, their passing offense was even worse, and they still beat Alabama as well. So, John Mateer, is it much better? I don't know. To me, I think the mentality is going to be different for Alabama going to the Oklahoma game this year. Like, if you're not paying attention this time, something's wrong. The game's at home. I believe it's homecoming. It's a late homecoming this year. I'm pretty sure it's that game. So I don't know. I feel like that's going to be a win for Alabama. Maybe that's a over confidence in my part, but I don't know if I picked them number 2. I'll put it that way.
Okay. Well, who would you pick number 2, Mike?
I'll go with number 3 in this case would be South Carolina.
Okay.
And look, I think there's no more important game time announcement this year than South Carolina.
Yes.
There's
100% yes.
Right. There is a flex on that game right now. I believe it's the afternoon or evening window.
3 or so.
Yeah. So that's a big difference. I think South Carolina at night, everybody talks about it. There's something different. And South Carolina, I feel like, is going to have an opportunity to come into that game with a lot of excitement for their fans and a lot of hype and a lot of, a high ranking. I mean, before that, if they get through Virginia Tech at home, Vandy at home, Missouri on the road, They do have a couple games right before that. They're at LSU and they're home against Oklahoma. But if they can come into that with maybe one loss and they're still right in the playoff conversation, like that crowd is going to be hype, as they say. So potential night game there. I mean, right now the tickets for that game are $244.
Get them now.
As low as $244.
Yeah,
just looking at their little ESPN schedule thing. So
that opener versus Virginia Tech and Atlanta, just for what it's worth.
Yeah,
that's right. I'm sorry,
Beamer
our Atlanta correspondent.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. But yeah, you don't have Kennard anymore as a pass rusher. You still have Dylan Stewart. That was an issue for Alabama last year. Lenore Sellers was a little bit of an issue by the end of that game. With what he was able to do. I think he could be better this year. I think he's certainly right up there to be in the all-SEC conversation by the end. So I don't know. That's, to me, is number 3. But there's a lot of different directions you can go in this part of the draft, if you will.
Well, I just have a wait-and-see approach with South Carolina because I've heard this tune. I've read this story a number of times where they look really good coming off a season, and then they just kind of fall apart. And I just, again, I'm going to cite what I wrote. I'll spot you Lenore Sellers, and I'll spot you Dylan Stewart, and I tell you to name another guy who's all SEC caliber on that team.
Nick Harbor's caliber, but
Jalen Kilgore.
Right.
I mean, they're not deep, and that defense, which was their strength a year ago, lost 5 guys off that defense to the NFL. So Dylan Stewart's going to have a little bit more focus on him too. And yes, Shane Beamer's recruited at a higher level than I think South Carolina has historically. He's a good coach. I think he finds edges, especially on special teams. I know that's super obvious, but I just don't know. And with Lenore Sellers, I don't know if he's Superman or if he's some knockoff Marvel character that nobody hears about. Like, He has moments. He looks the part. But how many guys have we seen they come along, they're big and strong and fast, and they go, how do you tackle that guy? Oh, my God, it looks like Cam Newton. The Cam Newton comparison happens every 2 years. And we just haven't seen him put together consecutive games where he looks like an All-American. Can that happen? Absolutely, the talent's there. Can you name a guy who he's going to be throwing the football to? Are we even sure that they're going to have Rasul Face on, their transfer running back? Like, it just feels like one of those things that South Carolina may be a beast at this point in the season. They also may be unranked and nobody to worry about. I just don't know.
And look, I think even if they lose the LSU game, I think they're going to be ranked going into Alabama, would be my guess. I mean, there are a few other games to trip up, but it's really, even if they beat Alabama, they have the toughest closing schedule of any SEC team. They're on the road at Ole Miss, at A&M, and then they have Clemson at home. And so you could beat Alabama, have one loss, and I still think they would miss the playoffs in that case, because you probably lose another 2 out of those final 3. So I don't think they're going to be there at the end, but for Alabama's sake, all that matters is whether they're there on October 25th.
It's a very tough game. I'm just skeptical. I guess that's the word. I was just very skeptical of South Carolina as a product overall.
Yeah. Alex, second pick.
I'll go with LSU. It's probably a little obvious, but they are the team maybe out of everyone on this schedule that has the highest upside.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about quarterback play with Garrett Nussmeier, when you talk about how they upgraded the receiver position, you already had Aaron Anderson coming back, Hilton there. You bring in Barian Brown from Kentucky, a burner, Nick Anderson from Oklahoma. You upgraded your defense. Getting the Weeks brothers in there, and also you got Patrick Payton, the edge from Florida State. The expectations there, you get Harold Perkins back too, which hopefully they'll finally play him in space like they're supposed to instead of being a bunch of idiots and putting him inside. Never understood why that worked with an undersized linebacker, but say la vie. Like, they have all the pieces to be the best team in the SEC, frankly. But I can't shake what happened last year and how Alabama's defense just made Garrett Nussmeier look lost. I don't know that Alabama can replicate what he did in terms of Jalen Milroe in football. Ty can run the football, but he's not the same. It's more, I think Alabama's defense, maybe they figured something out and what LSU wants to do. LSU needs to grow a running game to support Garrett Nussmeier, but I think they're the most dangerous team on this schedule. Probably.
Yeah. Number one transfer portal class coming in. There's a wide range of outcomes with Garrett Nussmeier, and he could very well be the number one overall pick in the draft if he has a really good year. But as we saw last year, there's times when it doesn't look good at all. So where does it fall on the spectrum? I think obviously the crowd's going to be into it in Tuscaloosa. It's probably the biggest home game of the year. I mean, is that fair to say in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah. LSU and Tennessee are always
right.
kind of, the same year. So, I mean,
right.
I think it probably depends on who you ask, but yeah, historically and ranking, LSU, obviously.
So I think the crowd's going to respect the opponent. To me, it's a little bit dangerous for Alabama just because there's a lot of players back from last year, and there's a complacency factor of, we handled those guys last year. They're no big deal. We're playing at home this year. Possibly they're coming off a big win over South Carolina on the road. Like, is there a letdown factor coming out of the bye week would be a question. And I don't know. This Alabama team hasn't really lost at home very much. There's a Texas game a couple years ago, and then it was going back to the LSU game. And I don't know if this LSU team is 2019. I don't think it is. It takes a lot to be that, but they could still be dangerous. And I agree that they're probably right. This is a good ranking for them. But to segue into my pick at number 5, I'm sure a lot of Alabama fans are surprised that we have yet to pick the Auburn Tigers in this draft. So that's why I'm picking number 5, because it's not as much about Auburn as it is the city of Auburn and the stadium in Auburn that is going to concern Alabama fans. Granted, Jackson Arnold, assuming he's the starter at that point in the season, has beaten Alabama before. Granted, Hugh Freeze, in a much different era, has beaten Alabama before, twice.
He'd like to tell you that he beat him. He should have beaten him 4 times, just for the record. It's that known that he.
And look, there's a question of, is he even the coach on November 29th when they play that game? Like, they played an interim coach before, Cadillac Williams, years back when Gus got fired. So there's a lot of different ways that game can go, but as fans know, there's a lot of different ways that game can go, and it is what it is. It's going to Auburn. It's the in-state stuff. It's all the above. And I don't think we can drop a game at Auburn much further than number 5 on your toughest games in the schedule.
If Auburn had a top 4 quarterback in the SEC, we'd be talking about Auburn a lot differently, because they do have some pieces. Their offensive line was better toward the end of last year. I think they're in a better place right now. Their receiver room, stacked, man. They already had Cam Coleman and Perry Thompson coming back, and then you got 2 of the best transfers in Horatio Fields and Eric Singleton. Singleton in particular looks like a future NFL player, but we just don't know Jackson Arnold. And it's always a mess down there, man. You got like 4 people calling plays at different points in the game. The X factor is, does Hugh Freeze still have his fastball? Like, he just seems like this has been a weird offseason for him in particular. The energy isn't there. And you just wonder, has he really adapted? Or is he just another Gus Malzahn that had his moment in the SEC and then kind of flamed out? I think this year will prove that. And I think, to Mike's point, if Auburn doesn't prove that, they're going to be paying even more buyout money because they're used to it.
Yeah. Real quick, just to go back to the LSU pick, and you talk about South Carolina schedule. I was just like, LSU's got Florida at Ole Miss, South Carolina, A&M before Alabama too. So that's a similar. Again, they could be the number 1 team in the country, or they could have 2 losses. So that's just something that I wanted to note as well.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of it is dependent on the vibes going into a game,
right?
And that's why I think there's a team that Alex is going to pick here that I'm pretty confident he's going to pick.
Vibes.
Yeah. Vibes going into a game and how things will be for both sides.
I know who Mike's thinking of.
I know who Mike's thinking, but I don't think I'm going to do it. I'm tempted to do it. I was going to say you could give me either game before or after. I'm going to go Tennessee.
Okay.
Look, I know you want me to pick Vanderbilt.
No, it's actually not what I was thinking.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell me to pick Vanderbilt.
I know there's a trap game on the schedule.
Me and Mike are on the same page.
Oh.
Starts with an M.
Oh, you know what I did?
I'm
going to be honest with you. I've got my list here. I forgot to write down Mizzou. Well, I'm an idiot.
Their SID is going to be mad at you.
Yeah, he has my number. You can call me. But you know what? I will stick with Tennessee. just because I already said it, even though Mizzou's the right pick. Tennessee they're dangerous. I don't know if they're as good. Yeah, I've lost all steam in this argument right now.
I was going to say it's strange to see Tennessee this far down on a list, but I think it is
just because they're not like the vibes are not good. Like their offseason has just been complete turmoil. And even if they had Nico back, and Tennessee fans can go to sleep at night, pull their covers up tight, and say, "Oh, Joey Aguilar, you're going to be so much better than Nico." There's a reason you paid Nico $8 million to be your quarterback. There's a reason there was no question he was going to be the starting quarterback. But even if you assume Nico was coming back, that defense lost a lot, including James Pierce, one of the best pass rushers in the SEC. And then on the offensive side of the ball, you lost the guy who made the whole thing go in Dylan Sampson. And your receiver room, which was not that good to begin with, didn't get much better, which is probably why Nico's out the door. So I'm undercutting my pick every single step along the way. But at the end of the day, it is Tennessee. They do have talent. They got a wild card at quarterback. Will they not curl into the fetal position the first time something goes wrong inside Bryant-Denny Stadium? That's my biggest question, because last year that seemed to be what happened.
Yeah, it seems that their offense has been figured out. Kind of I don't say the gimmicky. There's something.
Yeah,
no depth to it. And
gimmick feels like a bad word, but it is the word because it's different than everybody else. It's those super wide receiver splits,
right,
and running the ball downfield. And it messed with everybody,
right?
And that's why I said is Hugh Freeze a Gus Malzahn 2.0? I think Heupel's in that category too. Can't adapt.
And there's no Dylan Sampson. There's no James Pierce. Like there's no Squirrel White.
Mm-hmm.
Where's Squirrel White these days? Why
Florida State.
Florida, that's right. Well, it seems like a good segue to go into my pick at number 7. If that's the right number, right? Okay. I think it has to be Florida State.
You're not going to say Mizzou?
Yeah, wait a minute.
Nope.
Oh,
here we go, Alex.
I thought you were going to say Mizzou. I didn't say I was going to say Mizzou. I thought that's where you're going because we've talked about the Mizzou game. But
yeah,
I know I'm going to go with Florida State. Like, I don't know. I don't know about this game, and this game's in 12 days. I don't know. I think Alabama's going to win, but I don't know what Ty Simpson's going to look like. I don't know what Gus Malzahn has up his sleeve. I don't know what Tommy Castellanos is going to do. I don't know what the crowd's going to be like. I don't know what the weather is going to be like. I don't know how that's going to affect the game. I don't know about Alabama's running game. There's just a lot of different things. I'm like, I don't know. And at the end of the day, Alabama's better. They're a better team than Florida State in my mind. But I said that last year about several games, and that didn't really play out, especially on the road. And this Alabama team, to me, still needs to prove something on the road. It's a lot of the same players as last year. I don't think Jalen Milroe was the single problem on the road. I think it's more than that. And they've lost 4 out of their last 5 games away from Bryant-Denny Stadium. Like they've got to show me something. Yep. And Florida State, you talk about the surprise factor. There's a lot of newness to Florida State. And just how does that manifest itself, especially in the first quarter? I feel like the first quarter is going to be important. If Florida State can do a few things and kind of jump out to a lead or something like that, crowd's really going to be into it. And then you're feeling it after that. So to me, it's to drop them much lower than number 7, I think is disrespecting the opponent a little bit. Disrespecting the situation of having to start a quarterback for the first time on the road to me.
Yeah. There's nothing, a lot of what Mike does screams, I'm a dad. And watching the weather 2 weeks before a game, that's up there.
Well, there's different ways it could go. It's an afternoon game.
You're looking at the NAM, you're looking at all the different models.
NAM, yeah.
I mean, Mike is 100%. I mean, it's definitely going to rain and it's going to be steam. That's just how it works.
1 million degrees.
Yep.
Right. Yep. So it could go different ways. It could be 95 degrees and humid, which is what the European model is showing right now. There could be a pop-up storm, and then you're talking about South Florida or Michigan all over again. And just how does Alabama handle that?
Should we get James Spann on this podcast?
What?
Should we get James Spann as a special guest on this podcast?
You get to pay for that?
I don't know.
I would probably.
Or you could go the crazy route and the American model, the GFS or global forecasting system. I don't know if that's the American model, but not the European model.
I know this.
I watch James Spann every morning. They like to throw out these phantom hurricanes, and there is like a tropical wave that currently has a 50% chance of developing.
We got to go, Alex. We got to go to your pick. We got to go to your pick.
Station I watch it at a first alert every other day.
We got to go to your 8th. We're supposed to keep
Alabama
the score.
playing through a hurricane in Tallahassee. I don't know. It's only 12 days away. We're gonna find out.
We will have a full show diving into FSU. Alex, 8th pick.
Everything Mike said is 100% right.
Yeah.
I just think at the end of the day, Kane Womack will be pulling out a pen and paper and writing Tommy Castellanos a nice thank you note for his comments this offseason, because if Alabama needed motivation and focus heading into a double-digit favorite kind of game, he provided it. Okay, it's Mizzou. It's schedule more than anything. It's 11 a.m. kickoff in Columbia, and if that doesn't get you excited, you're human, because nothing gets you excited about 11 a.m. in Columbia. It's just going to be one of those games that I think is a potential sleepwalk. You're coming out of Georgia and Vanderbilt, which it's weird to group those two games together, but there is a lot going to that Vanderbilt game. And then you look ahead and you got Tennessee and South Carolina. It's just sandwiched in there. And Drinkwitz has a solid program there. I don't know who the starting quarterback's going to be, but if it's Bo Prabula, is that how you say it? The Penn State transfer, he can run. Alabama has issues with that. With quarterbacks who can run the football. It just feels like one of those games that I think it would not surprise me if Alabama is trailing at halftime in this game.
Yeah.
I think they figured out a way to win, but it's a dangerous game in terms of like the red light trap alert. And just because I should pat myself on the back again, it was this time last year that I told everyone Oklahoma was that game. So maybe, just maybe I'm right.
Yeah, and you talk about schedules. I mean, they play South Carolina. They play Kansas. I mean, they have one of the easiest schedules.
Week.
And they could be 5-0. They 11 a.m. kickoff. Alabama come in town. Those students are not going to sleep. Like they're probably pulling all nighter for that kickoff. And I wrote down weather, undefeated ? And trap game for that one. So pretty like
it's like 2 years ago when whoever was putting the mouse traps around Alabama's facility do that again. Right? I mean, Missouri does not play on the road until October 18th, the following week at Auburn. They're at home against Central Arkansas, home against Kansas, home against Louisiana, home against South Carolina, home against UMass to get geared up for home against Alabama. So, it's a strange game. It's a crowded game.
Is Missouri the Indiana of the SEC?
Yeah.
Just dodging everybody.
Right.
Always floating under the radar.
And honestly, their schedule after that's not that hard. At Auburn, at Vandy, A&M, Mississippi State, Oklahoma, Arkansas.
And yet Drake wants 50 teams in the playoff.
Right. They could be playoff.
He better get in the playoff this year with this schedule. I mean, he's not going to get this year schedule again.
Go look at last year. It was insanely easy too.
Right.
They didn't take advantage of that.
Right.
And they're losing Luther Burden, Theo Weiss. They're losing pieces, and Brady Cook. But anyways,
4 picks to go. Mike?
You
got East Illinois, Vandy, Wisconsin, and UL Monroe for our listeners.
Obviously, it's between Wisconsin and Vandy. I'm going to go with Vandy. I do think, like, if you were not awake for the Vandy game last year, you're going to be awake for this game this year. If players are not taking this seriously, then close down shop at that point. Yeah. So obviously there's going to be a different mentality going to this game. They're going to crush an ant with a sledgehammer.
Up the quote, and Mike had it.
Right. And, I don't want to say Diego Pavia is Cinderella, but I feel like
he's an anti-hero.
Right. Is there going to be a second year of Diego Pavia?
He's Deadpool. That's who he is.
Right. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe he could be listening to this right now and he's MFing me and putting his headphones on and going ready to.
I hope so.
Like, it's possible. That's just the way he's wired.
An obscure rap lyric about Mike.
He's not. Yeah. Well, that was his brother, I think, that he quote IG'd or whatever the kids call it. And look, I think he's going to be coming into Bryant-Denny Stadium with a lot of swagger and a lot of confidence. And obviously, it's a game where fans are just going to want Deontay Lawson to fly into the backfield and take his hat off. And Diego Pavi, I'm sure, is going to be ready for that. So, and look, the thing that not bothers me, but would concern me a little bit about this game is the combination of Jerry Kill and Pavia, and can they stay a step ahead of Kane Womack? Because Kane Womack, I'm sure, has spent countless hours this offseason studying what happened in the Vandy game, studying what they've done at Vandy and New Mexico State before that. And what is the next iteration of Vandy's offense that is staying a step ahead of Alabama? That would be my concern. And there's obviously not a ton of exposure before that. The game's early in the year, or fairly early in the year again, first weekend in October. So I don't know, but I don't know if it's going to be last year. And if it is last year, then it's going to be a rough go of it for Kalen DeBoer after that.
Yeah, I mentioned Eli Stowers too.
That's exactly what I was about to do.
Go ahead, Alex.
Might be the best tight end in the country.
Yeah.
Why I said Georgia will be better prepared for Alabama is why I think Alabama will be better prepared for Vanderbilt. I think Alabama, in a lot of ways, was not ready for that. I just call it a pseudo triple option because I don't know what they call it other than the FU offense. It's really effective. It's hard to game plan for. Alabama clearly was not ready for it. But I think, to Mike's point, I think Kane has spent a lot of time on it. And I think you're not going to catch them sleeping quite as much. Will that mean Vanderbilt can't move the football? Probably not. I think they've got the pieces. It says they're going to put up some points. But I think at the end of the day, Alabama's motivation factor in this game, getting the game at home, and the experience and knowing what they're going to get, I think gives them a pretty sizable advantage in this game. I think, as I wrote in my story today, it would not surprise me if it's a close game at halftime. It would surprise me if Alabama doesn't win by double digits by the end of the game. All right, so I'm the next pick. It's got to be Wisconsin. Are they a good team? No, they're not. It's like they're trying to turn around a cruise ship right now, going from the air raid to a Jeff Grimes, more traditional kind of offense, and they're doing it with a brand new quarterback room. There's a little bit of, unknown as it relates to that. I mean, Grimes has had successful offenses. Maybe having more balance will help them. Maybe Alabama sleepwalks into this game because they say, oh, we beat the brakes off of them last year. But at the end of the day, I don't think the talent level is even close. I think this is a game where Alabama should show its maturity a week before, or the game before you go to Georgia. And just leave no doubt and be that kind of team. If they don't, they play with their food against Wisconsin. That might be a danger sign for Alabama.
Yeah, I just was researching some of their wide receivers. I mean, it's just, where's the talent on this Wisconsin team? Like, what scares you? I have not heard some of these guys before. Tretch Kekahuna, Vinny Anthony, Kyan Barry Johnson. Like, I don't know. I just can't imagine this team coming into Bryant-Denny Stadium and winning. I think it takes a lot to do that. Cade Yakimelli was their running back last year, and didn't really do a whole lot. I don't know. I just don't know what scares me on this Wisconsin team. And I think this is a huge game for Luke Fickell. You don't have to win it. Like, I don't know if a ton of people are going to be expecting Wisconsin to win this game, but if Luke Fickell gets the doors blown off, like his time in Wisconsin is probably coming to a close pretty quickly, would be my feeling on that.
He was just real quick. I was at the beach one summer, and he was our neighbor the year he got hired at Wisconsin. So I hope he does well. Like, he was a nice guy, but he's definitely a guy that I'm glad you probably not being brought up as much, like in the national, right? Kind of a hot seat. Like, he has not really done too well over there, and talent acquisition too has not been too good.
He's one of a handful of case studies for head coaches leaving really good group of 5 or group of 6, whatever we call them, jobs for bigger jobs that are not good jobs. Scott Frost is another one of those guys who you realize, oh, I had a good thing going. But yeah, you want to see Wisconsin good. They're a brand. They're a really passionate fan base, but they're stuck in rebuild mode every year.
And right now, Wisconsin, only has 14 commits as part of their current freshman class coming in 2026, 61st in the country.
Where do you get this level of research anywhere else? I dare any podcast to bring this level of recruiting research into opposition previews.
I think that things are going to be blown up pretty quickly in Wisconsin. And I think this game is probably the beginning of the end for Luke Fickell.
You guys want to flip the icebreakers for UL Monroe or East Illinois, or does one feel better, stronger about? Well, Mike, you're up, so it's up to you.
Here, I was pulling up Bill Connolly's 767 teams in college football rankings because you're going to call me a nerd. I mean, the nerd level for Bill Connolly is like
Bill wears it proudly. He wears it proudly.
So, I mean, look, Louisiana Monroe is not a good team historically. Like, I think they have one winning season in the last 20.
They were all right last year. They started out really well.
All right, so it's Bryant Vincent, who was the interim coach at UAB after Bill Clark and before Trent Dilfer. And he's actually now the AD, which is very
tired.
Yeah. Well, look, it's obviously not they're a lower level group of 5 team.
Yeah.
Eastern Illinois is also a lower level FCS team, according to Bill Connolly's thing. They were not a good team last year either. They do have, and I think we've talked about this on this podcast before, but 2 former head coaches in the NFL and 2 former quarterbacks in the NFL. Yeah. Tony Romo, Jimmy Garoppolo, and then Sean Payton. I believe Mike Shanahan would be the other one. Who's from Eastern Illinois.
So who's your pick?
I'm going to go with Louisiana Monroe. I feel like I'd be silly to pick the FCS team over the group of 5 team, but I just think it is worth at least a little bit discussion because last year Mercer came in and Mercer is actually a really good FCS team, and Mercer is actually ranked higher than Louisiana Monroe is currently, even though one is FCS and one is group of 6.
Mike, or excuse me, Alex, Eastern Illinois thoughts?
I was currently looking up where Eastern Illinois is. It's in Charleston, Illinois, and that is the extent of my knowledge of Eastern Illinois. No disrespect, you're getting paid a lot of money to come in there and take a big old L. And if we were ranking games of interest, I would put Eastern Illinois over ULM because I think it would be a preview of Alabama's quarterback competition behind Ty Simpson. I'll try to phrase it as carefully as I can. But in terms of just pure, what's the most difficult game on the schedule? There's no question. It's the least difficult game. It's a tune-up before Auburn, and I expect very few starters to play very few minutes.
Yeah. Lastly, I always like putting you guys on the spot. You guys know how big environments are. We've talked about it throughout this last 40 minutes of home and away and timing a schedule. Just looking at this schedule, obviously the pick is probably Georgia, but between Missouri, Auburn, South Carolina, if you're an Alabama fan, what would you probably like if it was your pick to come out? It's Auburn
to go to a game
to flip it from away to come at Bryant Denny this year.
Oh, yeah,
that makes sense.
Auburn, just because there's an acknowledged weird factor.
Yeah,
every time they go there. South Carolina is close though, just because it's a unique environment. Alabama doesn't play there very often. And I'm guessing the game is going to be at night. But, yeah, there's no question. Auburn's just weird.
So you're saying if you're an Alabama fan, which game would you least want to be on the road this year?
Yeah, essentially, if you could pick one and be like, hey, I want this at home. Is it Missouri just because you don't have to travel out to Columbia for an 11 a.m. kickoff? And
you don't want to
42 degrees and rainy.
45 in the morning like I'll be doing?
Yeah.
Look. I'm going to stick to my guns with what I said off the top of the show, and I'm going to say Georgia because if you sleep on Georgia, I feel like you have a chance of getting your doors absolutely blown the F off in this game. Georgia is a good, talented team. So do not sleep on Georgia.
Don't sleep on the environment either.
Right.
Do we know what time that game is yet?
Yes, 6:30.
6:30? Yeah, the place is going to be insane. Right. I remember going to a game there where they played Notre Dame a few years ago. It was at night. And they had just started doing their light shows and everything there, and it was juiced. And I do think there's a rivalry there with Alabama. So I think fans and players are going to be up for that game. It's going to be intense. And there's a lot of those games on the schedule. Georgia, South Carolina, Auburn, you got them every step along the way. So, yeah, Alabama's going to have to show a lot of maturity, I think is the word, throughout this whole season, handling those environments and handling tricky start times. And all these storylines that go into games. They're talented, but they're going to have to. Consistency is going to be the key.
Yeah. This was awesome. We'll let our listeners, our viewers, and social media followers decide who won this iteration of the draft. This was a lot of fun. We will be back later this week. Again, I believe it's offense coordinator Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer will be speaking this week. Alex and Mike will have 10 minutes to watch some practice tomorrow, so some observations to come from that. I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about later in the week, and then we'll flip to, again, kind of game week prep. We'll get into deeper into FSU, maybe some bold predictions across the country as well. We'll let some Clemson talk go about for Mike, and we'll have a lot of fun. We'll continue on, and thanks guys for joining, and thanks for watching.